Teamfighting for assassins is one of the hardest jobs in League of Legends, and requires a lot of patience and mechanics to do well. This episode will follow the teamfight framework set out in episode 4, so please take a look at that if you haven't already. So without further ado, let's get into it. The optimal teamfight for an assassin is if they can position themselves to the side, or behind a teamfight. You also want to make sure that the bush you're camping in is sweeped, so you don't get collapsed on. So let's start with the direct initiation. In general, the only time you're direct initiating on an assassin is when people are out of position, or you can force a 4v5 fight. When people are out of position, you can start a fight with a Fizz Fish, or a Riftwalk E from Kassadin, or an R into E from Diana. Contrary to popular belief, very rarely will an assassin go in the follow-up phase. This is because in the follow-up phase, as soon as a direct initiation goes down, everyone on the enemy team will be looking to counter-engage. Going in at this time and getting hit with a giant AoE CC will instantly kill you, or force out your Zhonyas, which is a big no-no. Going in too early is by far the greatest mistake that people make when playing assassins. Instead, your job in this follow-up phase is to monitor whether the main CCs have been used, and start your analysis for the next step. In our first teamfight, we have Nagne on LeBlanc fighting against a scaling comp. This means that he'll have to kill the enemy backline if they want to win the teamfight. Watch how he patiently waits for his follow-up to force out the cooldowns, and then pounces on Ashe with a flash distortion. The entire first two phases of the fight is spent by him patiently waiting for the opportune moment to flash in and go for the AD carry. After this is just a simple cleanup to close out the game. So now is the kill backline phase, which is the assassin's time to shine. In the kill backline phase, you have two major options. You can either burst down the front line, or focus the backline to kill their squishies. In many cases for a group team fight, you have to approach from the front, especially in higher elo games. A very important tip here is that you should decide before the fight whether you have the scaling comp, and decide roughly what your teamfight plan is based on that. Your first general option is to kill the front line and then zone the enemy team with the Zhonyas. Typically when your team has a Jinx or a Vayne and your comp outscales, you mostly want to be choosing the kill front line and kill tanks option. In this second clip, we can see that AHQ is the scaling comp because of the Jinx. In this case, there's no point for the Fizz to go in and kill the backline at the beginning of the fight, because all they have to do is protect Jinx and she'll kill everyone else. Watch how Westor kills the front line in order to peel for the Jinx and set up a huge Zhonya's zone. Reckless on Sivir now can't do damage because if he disrespects the Zhonya's zone, he's just gonna die to a QE from Fizz. The methodical elimination of the Fnatic tank line has allowed Jinx to freely attack, as well as preventing the Sivir from doing damage for practically the whole teamfight. Many lower elo players think that they have to kill the ADC every fight as an assassin, but it's actually really good to kill the front line, especially when you have the scaling comp, and it's even better once you have Zhonyas and you can set up this huge zone. As a Fizz, LeBlanc or Kassadin, you also have really good cleanup, so you can chase down pretty much anyone once the enemy front line is broken. The second option you have in teamfights, especially if you don't have the scaling comp, is to flash bomb the backline. Now many people will say you don't need to flash to kill the backline in a teamfight. In lower elos I tend to agree because the vast majority of players tend to give up easy flanks, and they also position like donkeys, which is easily exploitable. However, as soon as you start versing challenger ADCs and mids that flash every Malphite ultimate, and supports that exhaust you mid W on LeBlanc, flashing to kill the backline becomes more and more necessary. In most cases, if you just run through their team and you're facing half decent opponents, you're going to get exhausted and peeled by support and CC'd by their tank line. So flashing gives you the ability to lay down the majority of your burst before you get exhausted. It also allows you to do a lot of unexpected AoE damage while they're clumped, and force out a lot of panic flashes. In this teamfight once again, AHQ is the scaling comp with the Jinx, which is why Westor can afford to kill Shen. Watch how Febiven literally doesn't do anything for the first 15 seconds of the teamfight. He wants to one-shot the Jinx, but he can't do it in the follow-up phase with so many dangerous cooldowns up. During this follow-up phase, he's watching for 3 key cooldowns to be used. The first is the Gragas ultimate, the second is the Kennen ultimate, and the last is the Tahm Kench Eat. Febiven makes the extremely smart play of Flash WR, which is literally impossible to react to. Not only does flashing make him unexhaustible, it allows him to dish out his entire kit of DPS in less than half a second, which gives the enemy no time to react at all. In this next team fight, we're watching Rookie on Yasuo. Notice during the follow-up and hit tanks phase, he's patiently hitting the Maokai, building up his stacks, and waiting for the backline to clump. As soon as they clump, he E-flash Qs and combos the entire enemy backline. Once again, the usage of flash in this clip allows him to get them while they're clumped, and prevents the enemy from dispersing, or flashing away from a slow and predictable approach. A major asset that assassins have is Zhonyas, which in my opinion is one of the strongest items in the game. As discussed earlier, Zhonyas is an incredibly strong zoning tool. However, many people run into a huge mistake with Zhonyas, which is using it too late. I often see people try to hold on to their Zhonyas until they're on 10% health and then using it. This can be good on control mages, but on assassins this is usually a mistake, because the main thing that Zhonyas allows assassins to do is to get out a second rotation while putting down a massive zone. If you're too low and you use Zhonyas, you won't be able to get out a second rotation without dying. So when you Zhonyas early, people aren't going to wait around for 2 seconds to save their burst for you. So as soon as you get out, a lot of cooldowns will have been used, which allows you to lay down this second rotation while still on high HP. So let's take a look at an example of this. In this clip, I'm really fed, but we're essentially 3v5ing the fight, and my fish gets completely negated. The guy with the rest of the kills on our team is on the other side of the map, so I really need to play this fight well for us to win it. By using Zhonyas as soon as I finish my first rotation, I'm able to get down a second rotation on high health, as well as zoning out the Vlad from the fight. See how scared he is just to walk forwards, even though I almost definitely won't be going for him. Just the threat that I might go for him is enough to prevent him from dealing damage in the teamfight. So to recap, we've learnt a lot of things in this video. The first is to spend the first 2 phases of the teamfight surveying for cooldowns that will stop you from killing your target. The second is to have a rough plan of whether you're peeling for your carry or flash bombing the backline. Of course, this is subject to change if an enemy AD carry plays like a potato and runs into your tank. But when facing half-decent players, try to have this plan in mind and watch for your flash opportunities to get onto the backline. The final thing we learnt is to Zhonyas early so you can unload a second rotation on half health and not be forced to back away from the fight. So now, let's put it all together in this final teamfight. In this clip, we get a direct initiate onto a priority target. While it's generally not a good idea to follow up before the CC is used, my initial reaction is to Q the Katarina. The reasons for this is that the main CCs on the enemy team are slow skill shots that are dodgeable with my E. If I was playing LeBlanc here, I might throw a QR, but I almost definitely wouldn't W in immediately, because Lulu ultimate into Jarvan EQ counter engage spells almost certain death for me. At this point, there are 3 main options I can choose. The obvious option is to Q the Morgana and then E onto the backline and Zhonyas. This option isn't great because I know that the Morgana has Zhonyas and most likely won't die, and on top of that I probably won't be able to kill anyone. The second option is to follow the cat with a flash Q and then E on top of her. However, if the cat is half decent, she's just going to flash my E and most likely not die. And on top of that, Lulu will even have time to knock me up into a combo bind by Morgana, which also spells disaster. Instead, the best option here is to go for the E into flash Q play, which is almost impossible to react to, especially in a clustered teamfight like this. This play allows me also to get collateral damage down on the Lulu. Unfortunately, I misplay and Zhonya's late. What I should have done was ignite the Lulu and then immediately Zhonya's. That way, when I come out, I'll be on full health, and I'll still be able to freely chase the Vayne. It didn't end up mattering in the end, but things like late Zhonyas can very easily cost you teamfights and even games. So thanks for watching, guys, stay tuned for a new video coming out soon, and hopefully you learned something. So until next time, peace.